Good evening. You heard that, yes? A simple greeting moving through a room, a voice sounding in air. And yet, already something more has happened. Before a word formed, there was awareness, your awareness, present, still, open enough to notice a voice, a chair, a breath. And that is important, because communion is not something we bolt onto life with effort. Communion is what becomes evident when this awareness is so at rest in itself that only the true presence can be heard. Be still and know, not be busy and demand. So we begin right here, not by doing, but by acknowledging that awareness is already here before any technique, any prayer, any system. Now, let us set our promise and our restraint. We are not going to force an inner voice tonight. We are not going to strain for messages or drum up fireworks. We are not going to get tense, psychic, or theatrical. We are going to abide, quietly, gently, until that which is not the voice grows thin, and that which is the voice remains unmistakable. And how do we know? By a release. Not a trick, not a trance, but a felt letting go in which the government is not on my shoulder. You see, without that release, everything that follows can be counterfeited. Wisdom can be mimicry. Guidance can be mind talk. Zeal can be adrenaline. With that release, the center shifts, the yoke is easy, and the activity is His. So here's the practical problem I want us to live with together. Who is speaking in me? Who is this I that thinks, chooses, urges, resists? And how am I to know the difference between the voice of the personal mind, quick, anxious, very certain, and the inner guidance of the presence, quiet, steady, without pressure, without becoming superstitious about signs or excitable with impressions? That is our work. It is sober work, and it is tender work, and it relieves you. You will not be asked to become clever. You will be asked to become still. And here is the way we will walk it. A little ladder, very dependable, very human. Contemplation, release, quiet assurance, right action. We will take one living truth and stay with it until it ceases to be words and becomes presence. And then, when the release comes, we rest. In that rest, silence itself becomes an answer, an assurance, no noise, no push. From that assurance, action moves of itself, without strain. I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. But hear this caution, please. If you miss the release, you will counterfeit the assurance and force the action. So we will not skip the doorway to save time. I do not bring you a theory, nor a doctrine to memorize. I bring you what is recognizable, repeatable, and lived. When the release comes, you will know. The shoulders soften. The breath unwinds. The inner argument stops, not because it is beaten, but because it has no more assignment. And from that moment, communion is no longer your project. It is your atmosphere. Tonight we begin there, in the room, in awareness. And we will let the presence prove itself as peace, as assurance, and as the easy movement of right action. You see how simple this is? Be still and know. Then let Him do the works. Now we come to this question. Who is speaking in me? You heard it. I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. Who is this I? And who or what is this Father? If we leave those pronouns vague, everything remains mixed. Every impulse becomes sacred. Every fear is baptized as guidance, and the result is confusion, disappointment, and a tired soul. So let us stay with the words and let them do their work. I can of mine own self do nothing. Who is this I? This is the personal sense of self, the one with a name, a history, a bundle of memories and plans, the one that reacts quickly, argues loudly, takes credit, and takes blame. This I is the thinker, the chooser, the resistor, the one that quotes truth when it is nervous and makes vows when it is cornered. You know this one. It is not evil, it is simply limited. It is the mind with its pictures, its phrases, its yesterday, its tomorrow. The Father within me doeth the works. Now, who is this He? What is this He? Not a man outside, not a personality in the sky. He within me. The presence. The life that is my life, the intelligence that is my intelligence, the love that is the fabric of being. He, the inner law, the inner light, the inner rest. He that is within me is greater than he that is in the world. The Father, the Father, the Father. Now here is our central confusion. The personal mind has a voice, and it is quick to borrow sacred language. It will say, God told me, when what spoke was fear. It will say, I have a leading, when what led was desire. It will produce urgency and call it zeal, self-importance and call it prophecy, compulsion and call it obedience. That is the mental plane with a robe on. And you have felt it. Tight, hot, loud, very certain, very hurried. How then shall we discern? By the agency that is operating and by the fruit it bears in your being. When the I is trying to do the works, pressure increases, timelines appear, outcomes must be managed, and you become large in your own sight. When the Father is recognized as the doer, a release comes. The shoulders soften, the breath deepens, the inner engine idles down. Silence is no longer emptiness, it is answer. There is no hurry, no bargaining, no self-importance, only quiet assurance and a next natural step. Never, never, never confuse intensity with authority. The test is simple and non-negotiable. Does it bring peace? Does it relieve you of carrying the world? Does it say, not with words only, but with atmosphere, the government is not on your shoulder? If so, you are touching communion. If it tightens you, flatters you, pushes you, leave it. That is mind talk. And do you see the shift of agency? Not I, but Christ liveth in me. The sense of doership moves from the busy I to the indwelling presence, and action, when it comes unforced. So our way is not to argue with mind voices, nor to decorate them. Our way is to return, again and again, to the one within, until the presence becomes conscious, until the release comes, and the voice is known by its native language. Peace. Then we can rise and go about our business, and He doeth the works. You see? Now, having seen that the Father is the doer, and that peace is His native language, we must do a little boundary setting, because this is where many of us, with the best intentions, make ourselves deaf by trying to hear. You know this, of course. The very straining to catch a message tightens the inner ear. And so let us say plainly what this is not. Hearing the inner voice is not hypnosis. It is not suggestion. It is not visualization with furrowed brow. It is not grinding affirmations until they squeak. It is not emotional fever with tears and tremors. All of those may produce effects. Yes, they may move a symptom, produce a mood, even stage a little phenomenon. but they do not lift you out of the mental plane. They are movements within the mind, not revelations of presence. What does the counterfeit sound like? It sounds like me talking to me. Endless inner debates, rehearsed conversations where I am very clever and they are very corrected. Fearful forecasting dressed up as prudence, righteous scolding where I get to be the prophet with thunder. Spiritualized ambition that calls desire destiny. That voice is quick, it is loud, it is pleased with itself, it never rests. And notice, it always keeps me as the central actor, the manager of people, the fixer of history, the savior of situations. The government in that mode remains squarely on my shoulder, and so the body tightens, the breath shortens, the deadlines multiply. You have tasted that. Why is that? Because the mind is a recorder and a projector. It stores yesterday. It edits it. It splices in a little fear, a little hope, a quotation or two. And then it projects it onto your tomorrow. Ask the mind for God, and it politely hands you itself. Pages you've read, sermons you admired, the appetite of the hour, all with a halo. It can quote scripture and miss the spirit. It can move feelings and leave consciousness untouched. That is not evil, it is simply the nature of the instrument. A violin cannot produce light, it produces sound. The mind cannot reveal presence, it reveals its content. Now here is the mercy. In true prayer, the agency shifts, and a release announces it. You do not become hyper. You become light. The inner climate changes, quiet, open, unhurried. The shoulders discover they have no world to carry. The government is upon his shoulder. The government is upon his shoulder. The government is upon his shoulder. And with that, silence is no longer a blank to be filled with techniques. It is answer. It is assurance. It is the end of bargaining. If there is no release, no softening, no sense of lifted burden, you have not yet left the mental plane, no matter how beautiful the phrases. So the instruction is sober. If you strain for guidance, you amplify mind talk. Effort adds gasoline to the recorder projector and calls the smoke revelation. Our way cannot be efforting to hear. Our way must be abiding until hearing is no longer a project. We will take one living truth and rest with it, not beating it into the brain, not dressing it up with images, but staying quietly until the mind yields, until presence becomes conscious and the voice is recognized by peace. Then we can rise without strain, and he doeth the works. You see? Now we come to the how. This contemplative way that lifts us out of the mental plane and ushers us into communion. I call this contemplative meditation. Reading or hearing a living truth and then pondering it, gently, steadily, without trying to make anything happen. Not grinding it into the brain. Not peering at it for messages. Simply letting the truth have room in you until it ceases to be words and becomes presence. That is our doorway. Take this. Be still and know that I am God. Do not rush it. Be still and know. Be still and know. What is it to be still? Not stiff, not frozen. Simply ceasing to push. Be still and know. Know what? That I am God. Let it turn. Be still and know that I am God. Now, let it come again from another angle. I am God. Who speaks I? Not Joel, not you with a history. I am, that which is before name, before thought. Be still and know. And notice what tries to climb aboard, pictures, phrases, arguments, and let them pass like birds across a wide sky. You are not answering a quiz. You are letting a door open. You see? Now take this. I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. Sit with it. I will never leave thee. Never, never, never. Who is this I? Is it a mood that comes and goes? No. Is it a person outside who might be delayed? No. Who is this I? The presence, the Father within. Let the question do its work without rushing to decorate it with answers. I will never leave thee. Notice if the mind drifts to schedules, to needs, to yesterday. Then, without scolding, return. This is abiding. It is not an incantation. It is a remaining. Remaining with a living word until the word reveals the word. Until silence begins to glow. Until the atmosphere changes. And here is one that has carried me through many hours. He perfected that which concerneth me. Who is this He? What is this He? Who perfects? Do I by planning? Do they by approving? Or He, the Father within me, doeth the works? He perfected that which concerneth me. Who is He? Where is He? Within me. Not outside, not far off. Within. Turn it, taste it, let it repose in you. He perfected. Not, He will if I am good enough. Not, He may if I pressure Him. He perfected that which concerneth me. And if the old fear says, but what about? You do not argue with fear. You come back. Who is this He? The Father. The Father. The Father. And then you rest again in that question as in a chair. Now notice what this is and what it is not. It is not analysis alone. It is not solving a puzzle to earn a prize. It is reading or hearing and then pondering, staying with a single truth until the mind tires of playing with it and begins to yield to it. Until it ripens. And how do you know when it is ripened? There is a felt shift. The phrases stop being projects and become presence. The inner air changes. The pressure lets go. Silence is no longer a wall you lean against. It is a life that carries you. If this has not yet occurred, you are still at the level of thinking about truth. That is fine, it is a beginning, but do not mistake it for communion. Continue gently. If the mind wanders, return. If it wanders again, return again. Never, never, never with self-condemnation. Abiding means staying until the center changes hands. From I must to He doeth. And that moment of interchange you will recognize. It is called release. Without it, you will go out and work from the old center and call it guidance. With it, you will rest, and then right action moves without strain. We are coming to that. For now, take one living truth and stay with it until it ceases to be words and becomes conscious presence. Then, only then, rise and go about your business. He perfected that which concerneth me. You see? Now what is this release we keep pointing to? Not an explosion, not a trance, not a private fireworks show. It is ordinarily ordinary. It is this. The inner push lets go. The breath that you didn't know you were holding drops and lengthens. The body finds its chair. The mind that had been grinding its gears comes into neutral. And there is a sense, quiet, matter of fact, that you are upheld, not upholding. The government is not on your shoulder. The government is upon his shoulder. You see, the words you were pondering stop being your project. They become a place, an atmosphere. Silence, which a moment ago seemed like a taskmaster demanding content, now feels like a friend that requires nothing and gives everything. How do you diagnose it? Mental effort feels like pushing a heavy cart up a hill while checking the clock. Did I get enough truth in to make it work? That is you trying to operate truth as if it were a lever. Release is the cart rolling of its own gravity in the right direction, while you discover you are not harnessed to it. The body tells on you. In effort, the jaw clenches, the brow knits, the stomach holds. In release, the jaw unhooks, the brow smooths, the stomach warms. In effort, there is argument, with life, with people, with God, with yourself. In release, the argument dissolves, not because a clever answer won, but because the courtroom closed and the judge went home. Peace won without debate. And hear this clearly. Responsibility does not vanish, only strain. This is not irresponsibility. This is right placement of government. Your tasks will still be your tasks. Your phone will still ring. The child will still need breakfast. But you are not the power that must make truth operate. I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. The Father, the Father, the Father. That inner acknowledgement is the hinge, and the release is its click. Now the same hands that set the table set it without hurry. The same mind that plans the meeting plans it without compulsion. You are present, but you are not central. Do not, please, chase sensations. If you go hunting thrills, the mind will hand you thrills, and you will call them God. That is the mental plane in costume. The measure is not tingle or tremor. The measure is freedom from fear and the cessation of inner compulsion. If the heat rises and you are still afraid, continue abiding. Do not announce victory because the body hummed. When release is present, fear loses its assignment, urgency loses its swagger, and quiet assurance becomes the climate. And once the release comes, stop working. Do not grind the statement one more time to be sure. Rise. Go about your business from the new center. Trust the click. If you become tight again later, return to contemplation and wait, not for a show, but for the simple, recognizable loosening that says, again, the government is not on my shoulder. Then rest and let him do the works. You see? Now, after the click of that release, there comes what I will call quiet assurance. Not a sentence in the mind, not an excited idea galloping about with banners. A settled knowing. An inward yes that does not argue, does not sell itself, does not require you to applaud it. It simply is. It stands there like a mountain that has no need to prove its height. And you know it, not because of words, but because of atmosphere. The climate turns clear. The floor under your feet feels sound. The breath is unhurried. Nothing to perform, nothing to secure. Be still and know. And in the knowing there is the answer, though no syllable has marched across the field. Why is it often silent? Because the presence is not a chatterer. The Father within does not entertain, he governs. Peace is his native tone. Clarity is his gesture. Sometimes the voice is a sweetness that says nothing and yet removes fear. Sometimes it is a bright stillness that makes a direction obvious without debate. And sometimes it appears as a stop sign, a clean, unanxious no. Not a fearful clench, not a superstitious quiver, but a simple cease. Do not send that letter. Do not take that road. Wait. The government is upon his shoulder. He doeth the works. You see, if the action were yours to produce, you would need speeches. When the action is his, a hush will carry enough authority to restrain or to move. What then do you do after release? You rest. You do not paw at the silence to make it talk. You do not interrogate the peace as if it were a shy witness who must be bullied into confession. You rest and let it permeate, washing the cup, tying the shoe, stepping into the car. Let it flavor the common hour. If it is true assurance, it remains while you stand up, make tea, answer the phone, go to work. It is not a bubble that pops when the kettle whistles. If it vanishes the moment you change rooms, it was likely emotion, imagination, or the personal mind imitating holiness. Return then to contemplation. Rest again until the stillness is weighty enough to travel with you. Now here are a few checks. Simple, you see, and reliable. Quiet assurance does not hurry you. It never says, quick or else. It does not flatter you with specialness, and it does not bargain. It is gentle and it is firm. You could postpone a moment, and peace would not punish you. It abides. And notice this. Assurance does not keep revising itself. It does not require you to pump it back up every 10 minutes with fresh arguments. It is content to be itself and to wait for right timing. And in that waiting, your energy is not being spent. It is being conserved. From here, action becomes plain. Not a push, not a stunt, not a proving of faith. Just the next natural step presenting itself without strain. The call is made when it is time to call. The word is spoken when it is time to speak. The foot moves when the light within says, now. And you will discover that in this way, the smallest acts carry moral weight and creative power, because they are not yours. They are His movement as your life. So we practice, release, and then rest in assurance, until silence itself answers. And then, as surely as morning follows night, right action will arise without willpower, and the Father within will be seen doing the works. You see? Now, how does this look at 9 on a Monday? Very ordinary. You find that, without inner warfare, the hand reaches for the phone and the words, "I'm sorry," are already out before pride has time to hire an attorney. Or you find that the cart you were about to push to the checkout pauses, and the foot turns, just turns, back to the aisle, and the purchase postpones itself. Or you are halfway to the familiar route, and something, quiet, not dramatic, says, "Take the other street." And you do, without composing a sermon about it. There is no trumpet. There is a calm inevitability, a rightness that requires no applause. He doeth the works. Learn to feel the difference, because it will save you much grief. Mind impulse is urgent, selling, self-justifying. Quick or you'll miss it. Quick or they'll think. Quick or you'll lose. It flatters with specialness or frightens with catastrophe and needs you to snap to attention right now. Right action, born of assurance, is simple, steady, and it does not bargain. You could wait 5 minutes, and it will be the same in 5 minutes. You could sleep on it, and it will grow clearer, not thinner. The government is upon his shoulder. Therefore, it is not your emergency. The Father, the Father, the Father. So here is a framework for the hour when a decision knocks. First, return, briefly, sincerely, to contemplation. One living word. Be still and know, or He perfected that which concerneth me. Stay only until the click of release reappears. Then look again. If assurance is present, unhurried, unbargaining, move from that. If there is no assurance, do nothing yet. Better stillness than hurried error. Do not let the calendar impersonate the Christ. If circumstances pressure, answer them with place. I can of mine own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. Then wait, even if only for a few breaths, until you are in your right center. From there, the step will show itself. And if it does not, restraint is the step. Normalize this in your practice. Sometimes the guidance is simply, be still. That is not a failure, that is a command. Sometimes it is immediate. Send the note now, speak now, turn now. And sometimes it unfolds by inches over hours or days. Today, gather the figures. Tomorrow, arrange the meeting. Next week, give the answer. You are not required to see the fifth step from the first. You are required to be faithful to the light that is present now, and to rest when light is withheld. The lamp unto your feet, not the floodlight unto your 5-year plan. You see? Notice, too, the aftertaste. Right action leaves no residue of self-importance and no hangover of doubt. Energy is conserved, not spent in proving. You do what is given, and you do not clutch the result with white knuckles. If a correction is needed, a new assurance will present the correction as simply as the first step presented itself. This is not passivity. This is accurate placement of agency. He doeth the works, and you are the transparency through which He does them. And, as this steadiness becomes habit, something else begins. The room changes for you. You will not so quickly note bodies and claims. You will feel an atmosphere, a motive, a quality of light. More on that in a moment. For now, take this with you. Right action is not forced. It is the natural movement of life when the presence is allowed to be the doer. Rest. Wait for the click. Move in quiet inevitability, or remain still in equal obedience. In both, communion is leading, and the Father within is governing the hour. You see? Now about that change in the room. At first, naturally, you see bodies and you see problems. He is tall, she is tired. That bill is due, that door is shut. Your attention is captured by surfaces, and your conclusions are drafted by appearances. But as abiding becomes your habit, as release and assurance take up residence, something subtle shifts. You do not so quickly note the body. You find, almost before you recognize the face, that you are meeting the eyes. And you know why? Because the eyes betray something of the light behind the person, their hunger, their hope, their honesty. Then, further, you begin to feel an atmosphere. Some would call it an aura. Better to call it the feeling tone that surrounds a life. Before a word is spoken, you are aware of climate. stormy, gentle, clear, muddied. And your reaction softens because you are not wrestling a body, you are meeting an atmosphere. And then, at times, not by will, not by schedule, a brightness breaks through the dense picture, and you glimpse a light where you expected a problem. A face grows strangely transparent for a breath. The air, for no physical reason, seems illumined. A weight lifts, and you know everything is all right, though the ledger has not yet changed. Now, let us be very sober. This is not spectacle. This is evidence that consciousness is lifting, step by step, out of material sense into spiritual awareness. The presence you have been honoring in contemplation is announcing itself in perception. The government is not on your shoulder, nor on their shoulder. The government is upon his shoulder, and appearance is being returned to its right place as picture, not power. So it is, the more you practice release and live in quiet assurance, the less you react to surfaces. Fear comes parading in costume, but you feel behind it an inner harmony contradicting the noise. A person shouts, and you sense a bruised tenderness begging not to be shamed. A situation threatens, and you feel, not imagine, that there is an order here deeper than deadlines, a law already perfecting that which concerneth you. He perfected. He perfected. He perfected. And here is the mercy of it in daily hours. In the office, you are met by a problem suit. You look, and the eyes are tired. You pause, and the atmosphere reveals itself, overloaded, afraid of blame. The answer that comes will be kind and firm because you are addressing climate, not costume. On the street, a stranger's scowl does not recruit your scowl. You are aware of a heavy weather about them, and your heart steps around the quarrel. In the mirror, your own face brings you no accusations. You sense a presence keeping covenant within you, and you rest. Now, a boundary. Do not make a religion out of phenomena. Do not seek visions. The mental plane can paint pictures and call them sacred. Hypnotism can produce effects. Imagination can tint a room. We are not seeking pictures. We are yielding to presence. If a light appears, bow inwardly and go on with your work. If no light appears, bow inwardly and go on with your work. The test remains peace. The fruit remains love. The government remains upon his shoulder. Never, never, never let tingles and colors seduce you into thinking you have found a shortcut. Be still and know. Rest until release. Live from assurance. Let perception refine itself as a byproduct, not a prize. And do you see where this leads? As the surface fades and the atmosphere becomes plain, love ceases to be a program and becomes sight. You cannot harm another without dimming the very light you have learned to see, because you are beholding your own life there. The eye of me is the eye of you. So the deeper proof of communion will not be your occasional gleam of light, but the way you treat the one before you, as unto me. We are coming to that. For now, let perception refine you out of judgment by appearances and into the steadiness of presence, until eyes, atmosphere, and, sometimes light, bear witness that he within is greater than the picture before your eyes. You see? Now we must put a seal on all of this, because communion, if it is true, will show itself in only one coin: love. Inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these, ye have done it unto me. Not advice, law. Not poetry, mechanics of consciousness. Who is this me? Not a man far off signing vouchers for kindness. the Christ within, the one self, the I that is I in you and I in me. If there is only one life, then every act toward another is an act toward the self, and communion cannot harm itself. That is the ethical seal. So here is your counterfeit test, and it is simple. Any guidance that permits cruelty, superiority, or exploitation is not the voice of the Christ. If an inner impulse urges you to win at another's expense and calls it destiny, you are hearing the recorder projector dressed up for Sunday. If your revelation makes you special and another lesser, it is the mind using spirituality as a weapon. The Father within does not need a victim to prove his power. The Christ does not step on a throat to climb a stair. The government is upon his shoulder. Therefore, no compulsion to force an outcome, no license to injure, ever. Lived non-duality is not a slogan. It is restraint and tenderness in motion. If I wrong you, whom have I wronged? Myself. If I bless you, whom have I blessed? Myself. This is why true communion softens, purifies, and renders you harmless. You cannot abide in assurance and then take a clever advantage in business. The moment you reach for manipulation, the click of release slips, and you know it. You cannot rest in the Father and then strike with the tongue online, mocking, baiting, humiliating, and call it truth-telling. The presence does not humiliate, it illumines. The Father. The Father. The Father. Translate it to the day. Speech. Let your words be clean, exact, and kind, or let them be withheld. Restraint is an action. Online. Refuse the cheap thrill of cruelty. Do not pass along falsehood to win your team a momentary cheer. Business. Invoice straight. Disclose fairly. If you cannot say it to their eyes, do not hide it in the small print. Family. In heat, return to the inner chair. Feel the atmosphere. Speak the truth without punishment. No silent treatments masquerading as holiness. In conflict, do not recruit the Christ to your war. Invite the Christ to dissolve the war. And notice, as you do this, energy is conserved. Peace remains. You are not weakened by kindness. You are strengthened by alignment with law. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. He was not giving etiquette. He was describing causation. There is only one here, and therefore the sowing is the reaping. Inasmuch as ye have done it unto the least, ye have done it unto me. And me is your own life. Now we will make this practical and repeatable, so that communion becomes conscious and reliable in your hours. A simple sequence, practiced faithfully, will carry this love from contemplation into conduct and back again, and we will take it step by step. You see? Now here's the sequence, simple enough to keep and living enough to free you from mechanics. First, choose one truth, not 10, 1. Be still and know, or I will never leave thee, or He perfected that which concerneth me. Take it as you would take bread. Second, contemplate until release, not grinding, not peering for messages. Ponder, question, turn the pronoun. Who is this he? What is this I? Wait until the click. Third, rest in the stillness that follows. Do not paw at it. Let it settle you. Fourth, move into your day from that assurance. Wash the dish, make the call, Do the work, without theatrics. Fifth, return as needed. 2, 3, 4, 5 hours later, whenever the inner weather clouds or the shoulders begin, uninvited, to carry the government again. That is the latter, but lived as rhythm. What is this return? Do not dramatize it. 2 minutes will do, sometimes less. You turn within as simply as you would reach to switch on a light in a familiar room. No speech, no bargaining, just the acknowledgement. Father within, thou doest the works. I can of mine own self do nothing. Then wait until the small loosening appears. Jaw unhooks, breath drops, the mind stops recruiting you into a committee meeting. And there it is. Assurance has reappeared. Rise, go on. If it takes longer today, it takes longer. If it comes in a breath tomorrow, rejoice quietly and go about your business. The presence does not need a parade. It needs your consent. Now about setbacks, which will look like fear returning, or a sudden gust of urgency, or the bright idea that shouts. Do not fight fear. To fight is to feed. Return. Take your one truth again. Sit with it without scolding yourself. Wait for the click. The goal is not perfect mind control. That belongs to the mental plane. But repeated surrender to presence. Each return reteaches the system where government resides. The Father. The Father. The Father. For the busy among us, here's a minimum that will bear fruit if you are faithful. Morning. 5 quiet minutes with one truth until release. Do not rise without the click. Midday. A 2-minute reset wherever you stand. Father within, thou doest the works, and wait for the loosening. Evening. Gratitude, not as performance, but as recognition. Thank you, Father. Thou hast carried the hours, and rest again until assurance returns. Each time, seek the release, not the words. If there is no release, do not pretend. Remain a moment longer, or return again later. You see? Live this way, and you will discover. The voice does not have to be chased. It becomes the climate in which you move, because the false claimant to the throne has been asked, kindly and firmly, to step aside, again and again, until it learns it has no throne. Then action is natural, restraint is natural, love is inevitable, and we are ready to sit together and let the present speak as the only one left. Now we come to the quiet end that is really a beginning. The whole of our hour has been this. Do not force the voice. Abide until the personal self has so little to say that only the presence remains, and then it speaks in its own tongue. Peace, assurance, right action. Not a trick, not a technique, a yielding. The government is not upon your shoulder. The government is upon his shoulder. When the claimant to the throne steps back even a little, the rightful king governs without noise. You see? Let me set the boundary once more, kindly but firmly. Never substitute phrases for realization. Truths are not charms, they are doors, and they open only when consciousness is softened by contemplation and the release comes. You can parade scripture for 50 years and remain bound if the words never ripen into presence. I can of mine own self do nothing, as a slogan, is useless. As realization, it is freedom. The Father within me doeth the works is not a talisman. It is the fact of life when the click has come and agency has shifted. The Father. the Father. The Father. Now, let us do together what you can do alone 12 times a day. Be still and know, I. Let the sentence slow until the words refuse to be words. Be still and know, I. Then drop even the I as a sound and notice that awareness remains, alive, present, effortless. Not your effort, presence itself. If a thought knocks, do not quarrel. Let it pass through the room. If a feeling stirs, do not analyze. Allow it to be washed in the stillness. Stay just until a loosening is honest. There. That. Carry this with relief into your hours. You are not responsible to make God work. You are responsible to return, to abide, to consent. The burden was never yours. It never fit your shoulders. The presence is responsible for its own work. It knows its business better than we do. Your part? Come back to center. Wait for the click. Rest in assurance. Move without strain or remain in obedient stillness. And if tightness returns, do not scold. Return. No drama, no parade. The Father has the government of this minute and of the next. A simple next step for the next 24 hours. Choose one passage, only one. Perhaps, be still and know that I am God, or He perfected that which concerneth me, or I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. Stay with it until release. Do not rise until the click. Then go on your way. Let guidance arrive as quiet assurance. Let action come unforced. Let restraint be just as holy. Return 2, 3, 4 times as needed. In this way, the personal guide retires, and the indwelling presence speaks naturally, as peace, as assurance, as right action. And we are content. You see?